Колеги, продовжуємо наш.
Dear colleagues, we continue our working day. First, an announcement. The press briefing of Andriy and Leonov, planned for today at 3:30, is rescheduled for tomorrow because his flight has been cancelled and he will arrive only tomorrow. So I invite Colonel Andriy Lysenko, who is the spokesperson for the anti-terrorist operation, with the latest news from the east of Ukraine. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Yesterday at 2:15 in the vicinity of the city of Volnovakha at the auto route Mariupol-Donetsk, the gunmen have shelled from the multiple rocket launch battery Grad. They crossed the road checkpoint Bugas, where at the moment 2 buses and 8 cars with peaceful residents were, and the fragments of the projectile hit the bus. As a result of this terrible crime, 12 civilians died and 17 were wounded. Also 1 military was wounded. And with the aim to investigate the circumstances of the tragedy, the movement through this checkpoint was stopped. The president of Ukraine said that deaths of innocent people at the hands of terrorists in Paris and Volnovakha are events from one chain. The civilized world has to unite in its fight against terrorism, Petro Poroshenko emphasized. The criminal shelling of the Ukrainian road checkpoint in the vicinity of Volnovakha was condemned by the Security Council of the UN in spite of the resistance of the Russian delegation. The statement says members of the UN Security Council strictly condemn the killing of peaceful residents, including women and children, as a result of shelling of the passenger bus in Volnovakha, and they also expressed their deep condolences to the families of the dead and emphasized the necessity to conduct an objective investigation and bring those responsible to justice. Similar statements were made by the High Commissioner of the European Union, Federica Mogherini, head of the Special Monitoring Mission of OSCE in Ukraine, Ertugrul Arpakan, and the U.S. State Department. Martin Schulz, the President of the European Parliament, in his phone talk to the President of Ukraine, said that on the 15th of January, Euro Parliament will call the leadership of the European Union to include the so-called LNR and DNR to the list of terrorist organizations. The situation in ATO zone remains tense. At the same time, we see a relative decrease in the number of shelling and firing at Ukrainian positions on the part of terrorists. As intelligence says, the illegal armed formations of the DNR continue to regroup next to Olenivka, Kuchayevsk, Telman, Granitne, and there is a more active movement of machinery, armored vehicles of gunmen through Dokuchayevsk. The highest tension in the anti-terrorist operation zone is still the region of the Donetsk airport and settlements around it. The commandment of the anti-terrorist operation forces decided that, as of now, the rotation of our military in the airport would not happen through the road checkpoint of the terrorists. Yesterday, for the first time in the outskirts of the settlement Vesele, the gunmen have for the first time used the heavy flamethrowing system of multiple launch Buratino, which is manufactured exclusively by Russian enterprises. They have also more than once used mortars, artillery, Grad batteries, and other heavy armaments. As a result of the shelling of the city of Shastya, 7 settlements in Luhansk region remained without electricity. The Ukrainian border guards have detected 16 cases of air reconnaissance with the use of drones in the vicinity of Mariupol and Sartana. In general, over the last 24 hours in the anti-terrorist operation zone, 1 Ukrainian military was killed and 17 were wounded. As a result, in connection to the decision of the President of Ukraine to sign a decree on the next wave of partial mobilization, we remind that the principle of equal burden on the country's regions will be observed. The mobilized citizens will undergo training on several stages. First, general military training for officers, sergeants, and rank-and-file soldiers, including medical, tactical, firing, and engineering training. The second stage is specialized training according to their specialities, and it will last for 26 days. And the third stage is combat training in units, which will last up to 15 days. And the decree of the President of Ukraine will come into force after it is confirmed by the parliament. The Ukrainian special services continue to prevent the terrorist acts of subversive agents. Yesterday, the SBU detained 2 citizens of Ukraine who participated in the bandit formations of the so-called DNR. One of them underwent training in the school at Donetsk, where he was trained as a minor, and both criminals took part in combat actions against units of armed forces of Ukraine and terrorized local population. Yesterday, from Lviv to the zone of anti-terrorist operation, 5 armored cars were sent that were completely re-equipped for the fulfillment of combat tasks. The volunteers have handed over the armed vehicles to Lviv law enforcers who are serving in the east of Ukraine. Workers of the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine over the last year have collected more than 143,000 hryvnia for the military who are undergoing treatment at the Central Hospital of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and for the military in the anti-terrorist operation zone. Also, they have more than once handed over to our warriors warm clothes, food, medicines, and sanitary and hygienic goods. Yesterday, concert collectives from Kherson and Skadovsk visited Ukrainian units that are stationed at the border between the temporarily occupied Crimea and Kherson region. In Krasnohorivka, the officers of the group of civil and military cooperation, together with volunteers, handed over to oncological patients, people affected by diabetes and disabled persons, over 2 tons of humanitarian aid, which included warm clothes, food, and other necessary things. The help from the UN Agency on Refugees came to Pershotravnevy district of Donetsk region. Blankets, towels, bed linen, and baby food. In Drushkivka, 30 people who suffered as a result of the conflict in Donbass got food packages from a charity religious organization. Today, 15 auto inspectors, car traffic inspectors from Ternopil went to the east of Ukraine to replace their colleagues on the front line. This is the 7th rotation of traffic inspectors in the anti-terrorist operation zone, and within the framework of the professional training, the fighters of Special Unit Poltava were working on detective or combat actions. Also, there's new information about the press cards for journalists in the anti-terrorist operation zone. The cards are being issued in Kiev at the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and in Kramatorsk in the anti-terrorist operation press center. However, the journalists will be able to work as previously without press cards after they have been accredited at the Security Service of Ukraine for their trip in Kiev and road letters in Kramatorsk. However, this process is more protracted. And I just emphasize that this is a lengthy process, but the journalists will be able to define for themselves whether they want to work with or without press cards.
1+1 TV channel, please tell. You mentioned that more than 70 shellings and the act of terrorism in Volnovakha. Is that still considered to be a ceasefire? Is Ukraine planning to strengthen the military actions? We are adequately reacting. If there are some shellings, we respond to that. We are not just observing how our servicemen are killed. If there is a shelling, our servicemen are shelling back, but they are not attacking the first ones. They are observing the ceasefire regime, and that's according to this regime. Yesterday in Volnovakha, there was the unexpected attack, and that group of terrorists which committed that awful crime. So we did not respond to that act of terrorism, no, because the group has left. Do you understand what is GRAD system? That is, they launch it a few seconds away and the vehicle left. But yesterday the enemy suffered significant losses. STB channel, could you please tell more about Buratino system? Buratino, that is a heavy mortar based on T-72 tank. The total weight of this system is more than 40 tons. It's charged initially. Initial model had 24 launches. Now channels. Now they have 42, and the distance is from 400 meters to 4.5 kilometers. The action of these is that where they hit, they burn everything what is around. It has a very powerful effect. The system itself has some defects because it's not very, it cannot move easily, and to charge it you need to have one more, which is similar with the crane which would be charging it. You need another vehicle like the tank, and you need special charges. So yesterday that use of that system did not bring any success to our enemies. Not a single serviceman was wounded, but we know exactly that the enemy has such systems, and they arrived from the territory of Russian Federation. The Ukrainian armed forces do not have such equipment. And then another question about Avdiivka. The people write that there are shellings from the morning and they hit the school. We don't know yet. Ukraine channel, could you please tell more about Donetsk airport? They say that we lost some of the terminals there. Is that so? In Donetsk airport, there were only 2 terminals, the old one and the new one, which was more modern. It has an underground parking. It was created for a peaceful life and to service many thousands of passengers. It is for receiving the modern airplanes. During the fighting, during the 9 months, the old terminal has been ruined completely. Yesterday, the militants ruined the upper part of the tower, which was there. It's ruined up to the 5th floor, and partially the new terminal is ruined, but that terminal is under the control of Ukrainian military, and the information that part of the militants managed to get to the lower part of the terminal. They just got into a trap there. 2 of them are imprisoned. First, they got there during the shelling, and that was the militants were saying that that was the success. Were these the militants from Chechnya? Yes. But then they got into a trap. Yesterday there was an information that the ATO forces and the OSCE and together with Russian officers started patrolling the territory of Donbass. What will happen if that is true, if someone of Russian officers is killed? That is a joint center that was set up a few months ago, and that joint center includes the representatives of the armed forces of Ukraine and the Russian Federation and OSCE. The main task of the members of this joint group is to monitor the situation along the line of delineation, and the information comes as reports to the General Staff of Ukraine and to the General Staff of Russian Federation and to the head office of OSCE. They are patrolling, but there are no cases with any people wounded or killed from our side. And as we know, when the representatives of OSCE feel that there is some danger in a certain region and that threatens the life of the representatives of OSCE, they do not go there, and only Ukrainian or Russian officers work there. Any other questions? No more questions.